Hello everybody and welcome to the configuration side of the Multiverse core, and we're going over basically how to configure it and how to install it. So in the previous video we went over in-game, a bit about the commands and basically the main bulk of the plugin. Today we're just going to go over the installation of it and a bit about the configuration. So download obviously as normal, drag and drop it into your plugins directory. I believe if you're using 1.74 you might want a beta build for now, but you know, just to try. I am on 1.7.2 at the moment as the time of making this video, so I just got the latest version and that's fine. So drag and drop it, obviously start up your server and hopefully it should say it's all working okay. So while that's started up, let's go into the plugins and Multiverse core. So you should have 3 files, maybe 4 depending on if you're running the server or not. Debug log, you don't really have to worry about too much, it just shows you a bit of log. Obviously having errors with Multiverse, then you might want to look here, but at the moment that's fine. Let's start off with config.yml. So I'm actually using Notepad++ for once. I've had it installed for ages, but you know, I always use WordPad for some reason. Okay, let's look over here. You can see here, Multiverse core is loading on the worlds, preparing it. It should do it before load. So where is it? There we are. Multiverse, enabling Multiverse core, and then you know it tells you all the authors, it tells you all the worlds that's been loaded, and whatnot. So that's great. So that works fine. Let's just stop the server because we won't be needing it anymore. And let's go over to the configuration. So in config.yml, this is like our sort of global configuration for the thing, and we're just going to go over the things. So first line, don't change this. This is just for more efficient parsing of this file, so just leave that as is. And enforce access. So this is a boolean, true or false. If it's set to false, then Multiverse will basically not enforce the world access permissions. So there are permissions which allows players to go in a world, basically, and if you set this to true, then they have to have these permissions in order to go to certain worlds. And this is what this enforce access does. So if you want to have like a permission system where, I don't know, like VIPs can only enter certain worlds, then you can set this to true and then give players the permissions to go in like the default 3 worlds or so, and then have VIPs allowed in an extra world, so you can set that to true. Next one, prefix chat. This is also another thing, true or false. So if this is set to true, the chat, when people type, it will have a prefix of their world and the color and the alias if it's present. So if it's not, it will just show it in white. So remember in game that we covered over aliases and how to change the color, and when we type, then it will put an alias. And maybe I should have covered that, maybe I should have typed hello just to show you, but obviously if you set it to false, then it won't do anything with the chat. Teleport intercept, again this is another true or false. So if this is true, then Multiverse will enforce access permissions for all plugins, not just Multiverse. So if you're you know, if you've got another plugin which deals with teleportation between worlds, then it will, if they haven't got access, you know, via this well-defined permissions, then it will also check for this too. If you set it to false, then it will just do it for Multiverse only. First spawn override, true or false, again another boolean. So this, if this is true, then it will show all players when they first spawn will go to the first spawn we set on the Multiverse, or set with Multiverse. So basically what it's saying is when the player joins the server for the first time, it will use Multiverse's spawn as the first spawn. If set to false, then it could use another one, say like Essential spawn or a separate spawn plugin. Display perm errors, again true or false. So if a player doesn't have permission, then it will say they don't have permissions. If not, then it won't bother notifying them that they don't have permission, basically. Golden debug, this is an integer, I believe, and you basically can set it to 0 to 3. Only really change this if you've been told to by a developer, just to see how things, but you shouldn't have to worry about that. Message cooldown. So this is the time in milliseconds that players have to leave before sending a message to the player. So if the plugin is sending a lot of messages to a certain player, for instance, then this is how long it will leave before sending it. So at default it's 5 seconds. Version, don't touch that. That just tells you what config version you have. Don't have to bother with that. First spawn world. So again, that will specify the first world the player spawns in. So this kind of coincides with first spawn override. So you can set the world and the spawn to use using Multiverse. And finally, teleport cooldown. So this is the time, again in milliseconds. So when you use MVTP, then this is how long they have to wait. I don't believe it's implemented yet, so this doesn't actually do anything. But once it's implemented, that's it. That is what it's going to do. Okay, so that's the basic config. We also have another one called worlds.yml. And this will basically have all our information about the different worlds. So we can see here, just to go over, just briefly, for instance, we have a world here called world. We have the world nether. We have the world the end, the Woopa world, and plot me. So that shows you the worlds we have. Let's just go over this. Well, let's go over the default world, I guess, because that has much more information. Okay, so we can sort of specify worlds. We can copy one here and set it up without having to do it in game, which is quite handy. But everything we do here can be done using the modify command as discussed in the previous tutorial. Okay, well, let's just go over it all the same. So seed, again, so this is random, well, fairly random, and this is just a seed from the world. So if you want to change it, you can. I believe, like for instance, with plot me world, it just gave us a random seed when we generated it. And see here, Woopa, we actually set the seed to 1, 2, 3. Okay, environment, again, you can have that as normal, survival, or survival, no, sorry, normal, the end, or nether. So that's your sort of base environment used. For world generation, you really want to always set this to normal. The type, so this is what the game mode sort of thing is. So survival or creative. The hidden, so this is whether you want to sort of, when you do MV list, obviously it shows all the plugin, the list and all the prefixes. But if you don't want the world to come up when players do this, then you can set this to true, and then their chat won't appear have any prefix. Does that make sense? I'll go over that again. So basically it allows you to show whether or not that world exists. So it won't show up in lists if you set this to true. And then when users chat in this world, if the world prefix as well, which I believe is somewhere along here, if that's set to true too, and it's hidden, then their chat will have no world prefix. So when they chat, it won't have any world next to them. Okay. Alias, so obviously this is the name of the world which appears in chat, and again we can define the color, so white, dark blue for instance, green, that sort of stuff. Obviously it's default white with just the basic name. PvP, again a boolean, whether you not want players to attack other players. Scale, I'll actually just go a bit about scale, because obviously some people might not exactly know what it is. So what the scale is a sort of, when you've got nether portals and stuff, it's like when you go in the teleport for the nether portal, it sort of changes the scale of like where you are. So it's interesting. I'm trying to explain it. So like if you have a nether portal, say in the world, say 0, 0, 0, and then you place another nether portal at say 1, 1, 1, then that difference there will be the same difference in the nether region, if that makes sense. It's a bit difficult. You might want to look at the documentation for exact definition of that, but that basically leaving it as 1 is fine. Respawn world, so if you respawn, or if you die in this world and you get respawned, then you basically specify a spawn for it to be respawned in. So for instance, if they die in world, I can send them to the nether and be like, haha, you've gone to hell, sort of thing. Allow weather, so you can set that to true or false, whether or not the rain to come, the snow, that sort of stuff. Difficulty, so again you can set that to true and true. So that to 0, 1, 2 or 3. Obviously you can set that hard, peaceful, easy, how difficult, how many mobs you want, that sort of stuff. Other things here like animals, so when you want animals to spawn, monsters to spawn. A bit about the entry fee, so the currency, -1 we'll use the economy plugin. We can specify an ID here, say 1, so we can set that to 1 and say the price to like 20, so it will cost 20 stone blocks in order to enter. Hunger, so hunger will basically, if your players are hungry, then it will just like enable, disable hunger, I guess. So whether you want to use a hunger system or not, if you set it to false, then players will not have to eat food and stuff. Auto heal, so this only affects you, I think, if you're using the peaceful difficulty, which is 0, but then it will allow players to regain health. So if on peaceful, I think players regain health over time. So if you don't want that to happen, you can just set this to false here. Okay, adjust spawn. So if by default, if you have a really dodgy spawn, like it's up in the air like 1,000 meters or in the middle of the ground, like something stupid where it's unsafe to teleport players to, it will try and fix it. But sometimes this isn't great, it doesn't work all the time, obviously. So if you want to set an unspawn, like an unsafe location, like over lava for instance, then you can simply change this to false and it will allow you to place it over lava. So it sort of has this system where if you have the spawn in a stupid location, then it will sort it out for you. But if you don't want it to sort it out for you, then you can set that to true. Okay, portal from, so this is, again, it'll go over the portals, which will go in another video, but just basically all you have to know is that this is all the worlds where other worlds can teleport to using portals. So you've got the none, all, nether and end, for instance. So they're the sort of portals. Game mode, so this is game mode, so survival. You've got creative, adventure. Actually I think it's only survival and creative, I believe, in this case. Okay, so keep spawning memory. Maybe you've seen this before. This is another boolean, true or false. Basically if you disable this, then the bucket will not keep the spawns chunks in memory. So if you don't have players logged in, then it won't load the spawn area. So I'm trying to explain this. So each world has a spawn area, obviously near where the spawn is, and Bucket will load this area just so when a player comes, it will have it already loaded in memory, and so it will constantly be loaded in memory. So if you really want to save memory and you don't have many players on, or they're not near spawn and it's just unnecessary, then it might be an idea to set this to false. So it won't keep them in memory. So that's quite a nice one. Spawn, obviously this is quite gibberish to Rush, or it's just numbers, but you can modify that. Probably best to do this in game commands like that. Auto load, so when the server starts, it will automatically load it. And bed respawn, so if you are you die, then you will spawn if you have a bed, basically. And that just works like normal default Minecraft. One other thing which I do have here, you can set the generator. So you can set the generator here, and then generator plot me is our example here. Okay, and I believe that is a lot of the config. There are little other things like flight and that sort of stuff, but that is the main sort of bulk of the config. So most of it is self-explanatory. Some things you might not be sure about, like the scale, obviously to do with portals and keep spawning memory, that sort of stuff. Hopefully I explain those things so you get a bit more understanding about that. I'll just close that now. So yeah, that's the config and installation side. So thanks for watching. It's been me, Sam from WoopaGaming, signing out.